The box on this one might be a little thinner. This is the Fractal Epoch. What can you get in that $110 to $150 US range? Well, that's this. It's new from Fractal. Think of this as a successor to the Meshify. Spiritual successor, maybe. Alright, this case has 3 2.5-inch drive positions, or 2 3.5-inch drive positions. It'll take ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX. ATX power supply. It has one Type C port on the top, 2 Type A, and a combination headphone microphone jack. You can have a 240mm radiator in the top. It has a GPU max length of 372mm and a CPU cooler max height of 170mm. If you're into case modding, this top part, the control panel, the metal part, is held in with 4 screws, so you can take that out to repaint the case or reapply paint or whatever it is that you're looking to do. You can kind of see here in the bottom there's 2 trays that are removable that'll hold 3.5-inch drives as well as 2.5-inch. And then there's this removable panel here that's designed for holding 2.5-inch SSDs, 7mm thick. If you're, doing a computer build and this is your first build, this is a pretty good case to choose for a first build. There's really not a lot that you could get wrong. There's not a lot to mess up. It doesn't have as much flexibility as some other cases, especially some of Fractal's other cases in terms of like, I want to put my radiator here, or I'm going to use this kind of radiator or whatever. But for pretty much any reasonable desktop build, this case wouldn't be a bad choice. One thing in the accessory box, I don't know if Fractal's been doing this for a while, but the snaps to snap the panels on and hold them, there's an extra one on the accessory box. So in this case, the thing that holds the front panel on, if you snap it on and off a lot, if one of those malfunctions, there's a spare in the box. In the box there's also mounting screws for hard drives, motherboards, mechanical hard drives, sound dampener, little rubber grommets, which is a really great feature, and an extra motherboard standoff, depending on if you have to reconfigure the standoffs that are on this. One trap you can fall into, especially if you're doing a more exotic build, some motherboards don't use the standard layout, or they'll move one of the motherboard standoffs. Threadripper motherboards, for example, that mount the memory front to back, will sometimes omit the top middle motherboard mount, and it will actually short things out if you leave that in, so you may need to take that out. You got to double check your motherboard mounts, but generally the mounts that are pre-installed are designed for normal desktop ATX builds. If you're doing an AM5 build, or you got one of those Core i7s on fire sale, which is probably the build that I'm going to do in this. A Core i7 for like $220 at Micro Center is a really, really good deal. And in this case, with tower cooling, makes a fair bit of sense. We've also got some nifty, sort of light gray grommet rubber pass-through for cables. So not really a lot here that's different design-wise, just some refinement and improvement from Fractal. Mesh metal top with plastic reinforcement in case your cat likes to hang out on top of your computer. At the rear, even though it doesn't look like it, you can actually mount a 120mm fan or 120mm AIO. So I think for this video we'll talk best bang for the buck build, and I don't even really want to call it a budget build because it's not truly budget. Like you can go hardcore on the budget. You could do a cardboard box, you could do a lot of creative stuff, but something pretty reasonable. And right now, the best bang for the buck, believe it or not, is the Core Ultra 7. Yeah, the Core Ultra 7 265K. The Core i5 right now pricing makes no sense. Intel has lost their mind. And the Core Ultra 9 is really not fabulously well priced. This is what I would choose if I were building a best bang for the buck system. For cooling, I'm going to choose the FSP MP7 Black. This is a seriously underrated tower cooler. This cooler would struggle a little bit on the Core Ultra 9. I mean, not really. It's rated for an absurd TDP, and I've used it with a relatively absurd TDP configuration. It's a dual tower design, comes with 2 fans. We did a build with this not long ago. This is the black version. FSP's also got some pretty good deals on power supplies. 850 watts for this build, 850, 750, 850, 1000 watts. Even if you're going to go for a mid-tier graphics card, I'm probably going to err on the side of a 750 watt power supply, and that's because a couple of years ago, Seasonic had some power supplies that had some safeties in them, and when the GPU would fully activate, the power supply would turn off because it thought there was a short. Now, motherboard. Because this is an Intel chip, it's the ASRock B860. This is the Steel Legend. I wish this motherboard had a different PCIe layout. You've really only got 2 slots to work with. They keep deleting my PCIe slots and I don't care for it. But this is a pretty good motherboard with ample USB at the rear. You don't always get ample USB. You can also find this motherboard at a pretty reasonable price. Yeah, some B860 board, chances are, is going to be your best bang for buck option, depending on what it is that you're doing. Now, there's not really a fantastic upgrade path here. I'm pretty sure Intel's going to end of life this platform, and if there is a refresh for the CPU, mark my words, it's not going to be dramatically faster. AM5 is a better choice for longevity and upgradability. You can build this and then put a CPU in here and then swap to another CPU later. If that's your game, some of the motherboards that we've reviewed for AM5 and the B850 Steel Legend also fits the same aesthetic, and it's basically an identical PCIe layout. So you could go with the B850 if you want an AMD CPU. Now, if you're going to build like a 9800X 3D, a 9800X 3D is a better gaming CPU than the Core Ultra 7. A 9950X is going to run circles around the Core Ultra 7 for multi-core workloads because it's 16 homogeneous cores. You could do the 16-core X3D, but that's really for like a higher end build, and if you do the X3D and maybe even the 9950X, I would probably opt for a higher end AM5 motherboard. There's a lot of options on the secondary market, especially for 7000 series AM5 CPUs. That could be a pretty good deal. It'd be hard to beat $220 for the Core Ultra 7. But, you know, a 7000 series Ryzen, like an 8-core, you get in that $200 price neighborhood. Then you have a path to upgrade to 9000 series CPUs at least, and probably, although not guaranteed, what comes after the 9000 series CPUs from AMD. You just pop in a new CPU. And this cooler, this FSP cooler, is going to be able to handle basically any AM5 CPU that you could throw at it. If you do get the non-K, like if you get the Core, like the 265, no K, no overclocking, or the Core Ultra 285 non-K, this CPU is actually overkill. Like you could actually do with one of the inexpensive Intel OEM coolers. Like that would actually be fine because those CPUs are not, there's no, the K part, there's no overclock, there's no dumping a ton of power into them. But if I had a choice of the Core Ultra 7 265K or the Core Ultra 9 no K, like the 285 no K, that's a tough choice if they're basically the same price. I mean, if the Core Ultra 7 is cheaper, go for the Core Ultra 7. If the Core Ultra 9 is, well, if it's the Core Ultra 9 is like $30 more expensive, I'd probably go for the Core Ultra 9. But all of the things being equal, like it's a pretty good deal. And finally, GPU. Well, I'm going to splurge a little bit. I would say the 9070 XT Tai Chi. AMD has got the best bang for the buck locked up with their 9000 series GPUs. Depending on what you can get, and especially if you can get it for close to MSRP, you don't have to opt for the Tai Chi. The Tai Chi gives you a little bit more performance, a little bit more cooling, but it is a big chunkin' card. But if you don't have the PCIe slots anyway on the motherboard, makes sense. If you want something with a different aesthetic, ASRock also makes the Steel Legend 9070 and 9070 XT. There are other 9070, 9060 if you're not really super into gaming. The 9000 series GPUs from AMD are, they do ray tracing really well. They'll do 1080p and 1440p really well depending on the title and the graphics settings. 4K might be an option. 16 gigs of VRAM. You're not playing any games with the VRAM. 16 gigs of VRAM is where you want to be if you're doing a build like this. Best bang for the buck. AMD's got it locked up for best bang for buck, period. Especially if you can get the cards at MSRP. And those are the components that I would select for this build. Now I've actually got to put this build together and do some videos with that, but I just wanted to, show you the parts and get this together and go from there. There'll be some more follow-ups on this on the Level 1 website and the Level 1 forums, so if you want to see this build and you have some ideas for stuff to try on it or anything like that, hit me up in the forum. I'm Wendell. This has been a quick look at the Fractal Epoch and the kind of system that I would probably put in here. And yeah, you could put it, show your pictures. If you pick up this case and you want to do a build, there's going to be some people out there who's like, I'm going to do a Threadripper with tower cooling. Yeah, that's fine. That'll work totally fine in this case. Going to do an AIO, a 360mm AIO in the front, and then, go nuts for something else. Yep, that's fine. It's totally reasonable build. Totally fun thing to do. That's what we like to see on the forum, which is where I'm signing out, and I'll see you there, because forum, fun times. But yeah, it's interesting case launch from Fractal. So, cool. All right, bye.